Celebrating 30 years of phenomenal trend forecasting, 5 times a week, Monday through Friday. Here's Gerald Celente with today's trends in the news.
Hi, this is Gerald Celente. It's Wednesday, September 30th, 2015. And here are some of today's trends in the news. Over there in Asia, the markets, well, Mr. Shanghai was flat. But that Nikkei was up on the good news. That industrial output that was supposed to go up about over 1%, well, it was down again. That's right, second straight month in a row. But hey, that was a good reason for the Nikkei to go up, because after all, it's down over 16% since Mr. Shanghai started going lower in June. So that was a good reason for the market to go up. And because that market went up, that's the reason why all the other markets went up across Europe and here in the USA, up well over 200 points. And gold, whoof, whack, boom, down. Oil, beep, flat. And on the news, that there really isn't any other news that really reflects where the markets are going, other than when you look at the fundamentals of the economy, they're not sound. And the big news is, today is not only Trends This Week, you got your Trends Monthly. And what a monthly it is. It's another TrendsJournal for all intents and purposes. Great information in there, beginning with the story, Federal Reserve. Heads I win, tails you lose. Great story about Ralph Nader, about the conference, and one piece of information after another that you read history before it happens. Again, the quiet moments with Ralph Nader is really one good one to look at. The things that he says and putting it into perspective today. And of course the video, the peace videos, a little bit of that. And also we have other stories on streaming content, pounds, cable, rail industry in peril, a genetic predictor of healthy aging. And healthy aging is where it's going as society is aging rapidly, and a lot of people want to live before they die. So you better be in artful aging and to create beauty in your life. And doctor in your hand. Forget the thermometers and blood pressure cuffs. Now there's Mouth Lab. One story after another. Hormone may treat obesity more effectively, controlling cancer electrically, record low prices for U.S. wind and energy, but, and on and on and on. More bang for your buck, and you haven't paid any more for the TrendsJournal since we began it in 1991. But you get the Trends Monthly, Trends This Week, Trends in the News, and of course the TrendsJournal. So, you got that today. And, of course, the markets also went up on the good news today in the report that the world's set for emerging market mass default, warns IMF. Now that's good news, isn't it? That's a good reason to bring it up. Now, the IMF said market liquidity, or ease with which investors can quickly buy or sell a securities without shifting their price, was, quote, prone to a sudden evaporation. Poof! Sounds like China, particularly in bond markets. The IMF said corporate debt in emerging markets have gone from $4 trillion in 2004 to $18 trillion today. Quote, as advanced economies normalize monetary policy, emerging markets should prepare for an increase in corporate failures. And you know why? I've been saying it for weeks. Because when they normalize, we're in abnormal conditions now with record low interest rates, zero interest rate policy, and not having raised rates since 2006. When they raise rates, all that debt that they took on at those ultra low interest rates, well, the currencies decline, the dollar gets stronger, and they have to pay back more dough. So, Get ready, and that's a good reason why the markets went up today. IMF issues warning on risk of Fed rise. They keep it going over here in the Wall Street Journal. The International Monetary Fund has warned that emerging economies and bond markets need to prepare for an increase in corporate failures if and when the U.S. Federal Reserve and other central banks in advanced economies begin raising rates. That's good reason for the market to go up. We've got a calamity right waiting to happen. Equities faced worst quarter since 2011 over fears of global economy. You got it right here, and of course we said it was going to happen. The decline of the commodities sector has reinforced fears over demand in China. The Bloomberg Commodity Index, a basket of 22 future contracts, was down nearly 15% for the third quarter, setting up potentially the biggest quarterly decline, you ready, since the fourth quarter of 2008. And just keeps getting worse. Emerging markets, that's the talk. Keep it in your head. Investors fleeing emerging markets. Foreign capital is gushing out of emerging markets. Global investors are estimated to have pulled out $40 billion from emerging market stocks and bonds during the current quarter. You ready? The most for a quarter since the depths of the 2008 global crisis. All right? So they keep going back to 2008. You can see where we're going. Hey, remember when President Obama promised that the U.S., he said in 2010, was going to be doubling its exports? Yeah, just like they were going to close Guantanamo, huh? Exports weakness hampers growth. U.S. exports are on track to decline this year for the first time since the financial crisis. Hey, financial crisis comes up 3, 4, 5 times, one day after another, story after story. Could you put this into perspective? Well, that's why we believe there's going to be an equity meltdown before the end of the year. Undermining a national push to boost shipments abroad. Through July, exports of goods and services were down 3.5% with the same period last year. So, on another piece of little news, I know it's going to come as a shock. Sit down, take a deep breath. Fiat Chrysler concedes violation of U.S. rule. Federal regulators said on Tuesday that Fiat Chrysler automobiles had significantly underreported to regulators the number of deaths and injury linked to possible defects in its cars. Hey, Volkswagen, Chrysler, General Motors, they all get away with, could anybody say it? Murder. Hey, but it's okay because they're too big to fail. They're better than everybody. Be a good boy and girl. How many drinks did you have? Pull over. Put your hands on it. Let me see your license and registration. Don't go over that yellow line. Keep your brights off when another car's coming to you. You didn't put your signal light on. Hey, remember they killed that woman in jail for that one, huh? Murder they get away with. And they'll get a slap on the wrist because it's a fascist government, merger of state and corporate powers. Hey, Loretta Lynch, where are you, huh? You're Attorney General. Puh, a joke. And to show how bad things are getting in that Earl field over there, Chesapeake cuts 15% of workforce. Shale Driller has been reducing rig activities, spending to cope with lower oil and gas prices. That is just the beginning. And on to some international news. America's favorite ally. Them Saudis, they're out there breaking that record again, man. Yep. Beheadings now, 175. Isn't that something? Hey, we got a couple of months left in this year. our allies, that's what Hillary calls them. Hillary, excuse me, that Freudian slip just keeps coming in there. Our allies. Yeah, the allies that are murdering people and destabilizing the government of Syria, that have propped up all of those so-called rebels who are those radical groups. And the big thing is today, I'm watching CNBC News, and this little clown says, the market took a dip earlier in the day. Quote, could it be because Russian jets are bombing part of Syria? That's the news. Russian jets are bombing Syria. It's okay for American jets to bomb Syria. Hey, how about those Israeli jets? It's okay that they bomb Syria. Hey, what about those French jets? Bombs away over Syria. But now the Russians are coming, huh? And that's the big news. And here it is. Russians launch first airstrikes in Syria, CNN. And this is great. According to Russian Defense Ministry, warplanes targeted 8 ISIS positions, including arms, transportation, communications, and control positions. And what they're saying is they're actually hitting these places because they're working with the Syrian government. And there is a Syrian government, for everybody that forgot, and it's run by the president that was elected ostensibly by 80% of the population, Assad. So they have the people there telling them where to hit, where America doesn't. Hey, you remember the $500 million America spent to put in those rebels, huh? Yeah. They only got 5 guys there now, and they gave away all the stuff, the armaments that we gave them. So Russians are saying they're going to be more successful because they're working with the Syrian government. So, but Ashhole Carter, America's U.S. Defense Secretary, countered the claim, quote, I want to be careful about confirming information, but it does appear that the Russians were in areas where there were probably not ISIL forces. How does he know? How about this for propaganda? Ashhole was there looking right up those ISISes to see if they was around. Huh? You believe this? You look at this guy, little boy. He goes on. The result of this kind of action will inevitably simply be to inflame the civil war in Syria, Ashhole said. Yeah, America's not inflaming the civil war. The French aren't inflaming the civil war. No, the Russians are. No, they're not. They are supporting the government in power. America is they're against international law. They've gone into a country that they were not invited into. The Russians were invited into. Ashhole. And then Kerry throws his 2 cents, and that's about all that guy got, man. Oh, Frankenstein Kerry, 2 cents, that's it, Jack. He goes on to shoot his mouth off. Quote, we have conducted a number of strikes against ISIL targets in Syria over the past 24 hours, including just an hour ago. These strikes will continue. Hey, it's okay for America's strikes to continue, yeah. And we'll continue our mission of failure on top of failure on top of failure. He said the U.S. coalition has conducted 3,000 airstrikes against ISIS, and that effort will increase dramatically. Isn't this something? Nothing but failure. And now the Russians are there. Yep. He goes on, he warned that the fight against ISIS should not be confused with support for Syrian President Assad. Could you imagine? So something happened at the UN. And Putin and Obama met for 90 minutes and not much was said. So, this is big what's going on in Syria. Where's it going to go? I don't know. But there's going to be a conflict or there's going to be peace. And I think, my hunch is that the United States is going to back off this. because everything that they've been doing there has been a loss. Everybody adds it up. 3,000 missions, nothing but failure, billions spent, wasted money, more people killed, the refugee crisis continues. I think there's going to be some kind of a solution in Syria. Now, we'll see. This is Gerald Celente, and that's some of today's Trends in the News.